All right, people, the saga continues. SIG has issued their statement on the Montville, Connecticut Police Department incident, i.e., the SIG going off in its holster. So, their response is basically what you'd expect it to be. They're saying, it's not their fault, and that the unintentional discharge was a result of an inadvertent contact with the trigger, and that the pistol did not fire without a trigger pull. There's a lot more words here, not going to go into all of them, but essentially that's their entire statement. Is there must have been an obstruction in the holster, and that's why the pistol fired, because the trigger was pulled. Now, the evidence that they're giving to show this is essentially just these three images pointing to various parts of the pistol and holster to demonstrate that it's not properly seated and it's not secured. So, let's see. Pistol not fully seated in the holster, not secured by retention hood. They've pointed to that. Holster retention hood not fully closed over the pistol, and they point to this gray strap of some kind. And then pistol not fully seated holster, not secured by retention hood. Basically, they're saying this little appendage in the front of the holster is the retention hood, and because the retention hood isn't secured, that means that the pistol wasn't properly seated. Now, I think, clearly as I'm making this video, that SIG statements here are completely incorrect, and I'm going to get into why. For starters, though, I'm not some investigator, gunsmith, or armorer that works for the Montville Police Department, works at SIG, or works at Safariland. I'm literally just some dipshit on the internet who has a copy of Adobe Premiere and two semi-functioning eyeballs, okay? So, with that said, let's get into evidence of why I think that this claim is complete horseshit. Before we could discuss why the claims about the Montville PD's holsters are bullshit, I think it's important we figure out what exactly the setups they're running is. So, images pulled straight from the Montville PD. On their Facebook page, they have various images of holster setups that their officers are using. Now, they might not all be using the same one, but it's important to note how many different images there are of officers running what appears to be very similar rigs. So, some type of Safariland holster, retention hood is over the top. They have an ALS guard here, so no bad guys can get at your shit, and also it protects your dad bod. And some type of tourniquet holder on the front with, notice there's this gray strap here on the front of it. Okay, we have another image. I actually think this image is pretty much one of the best, and this is probably almost the exact setup that this officer is using in this video. He's got a SIG extended mag. We'll see both of these in the video. Beaver tail sticking way over the top of the retention hood because it's a fucking SIG. And we got ALS guard, retention hood, and tourniquet holder. And then here's another image. This is not a zoomed in image or enhanced in any way. We have several different officers running what appears to be, you could kind of see his TQ holder sticking out right there and there. Multiple officers at the Montville PD running setups very similar to this setup and this setup, almost as if it's possibly what their issued gear looks like. All right, now I think the Montville PD images probably do enough of explaining for themselves, but it would be nice to have some type of a high-resolution image of what's going on here. So these next two images are not from the Montville PD. They're from gun reviewers on the internet, but they're running very similar rigs to this. Here's an example of someone running what appears to be a very similar Safariland, if not the exact same one, and he's running actually the exact same tourniquet holder on the front, as you could see by the attachment setup used for it. So I think it's an RDR gear TQ holder. Don't quote me on that. But this is a pretty high-res photo of a very, very similar setup to what these officers are most likely running and the officer in the video. And here's an example of something very similar, different tourniquet holder, though, with the ALS guard. And you can see the separation around the hood and the backplay of the firearm, though this is a Glock, not a SIG, and the ALS guard. These are all things that are going to be sticking out in the video. Front view, what that might look like. And then, once again, tourniquet strap, just as an example. Tourniquets have this giant white or gray strap on the front of them. Okay, getting into the video, I've made no edits to the video. I'm going to stop it at random points, though, where I have put markers in my Premiere timeline, and I've also, in the bottom left corner, put notes as to what I think we're seeing in the video. I'm not going to zoom in. There's no cuts to the video. This is the video in its entirety. So, yada, yada, yada. Here's our hoss in question. Forearms popping, dude. You're looking good. Looking good. Keep it up. Keys right up front in case, got to go for a crotch grab so you could open some doors. Here's our first point of interest right here. Like I said, noted, everything's going to be off to the side, so it's not super distracting. What I think we could clearly see here is that white strap from the tourniquet holder. Okay? We'll keep referring back to this image because it's straight from Montville Police. What could this possibly be, this strap here? I think it's pretty clearly this tourniquet holder. SIG, on the other hand, thinks it's the retention hood. Now, once again, I am some dipshit on the internet, but I'm not sure how SIG is missing this. All right, I'm going to drag forward a bit because a lot of stuff happens really close together. Here is where I first think it becomes obvious that the retention hood is on this firearm is being used. I'm going to step through it frame by frame, and the reason for this is you literally have this beam of sunlight coming from outside that is going to hit the top of this strap here, which even in this blurry photo looks to be pretty reflective, and it's going to just bounce off of it and show the entire shape of it, and it's right there. You have the light shining in, bouncing off the top of the retention hood, and I'll play it back and forth, kind of frame by frame real quick. Any still image here is hard to pick out too much detail on because it's a body cam, but when you see it moving in space like this, you could pretty clearly, I think, pick out the exact shape of it, which is pretty similar to this. I think it's really easy to pick out the shape of the retention hood as you play the video back and forth at this angle. But once again, what do I know? This probably isn't a retention hood. It's probably this thing hanging out several inches off the front of the holster, right? That's at least what SIG says. Here as well, we got the ALS guard sticking out over the top. You can see as he turns here, I think the retention hood's right here where there's a little bit of reflection. It might be hard to see on the video, especially for y'all. But then we have the ALS guard sticking out over the top. Okay? Now we're just going to play through a little bit. Right there, there's the softest, most gentlest of strokes on the back of the SIG. And that is more than enough to cost taxpayers probably thousands of dollars in Montville to repair a single piece of tile. But that's beside the point. I'm going to continue forward. What else do we got? Here I'm pointing out, once again, there's the tourniquet. Straps right there, clear as day. What we have here, though, is it could be from some type of reflection, but I think here, clear as day, is a gap from the hood over the top of the pistol that we're able to see through and pick up this white spot here is the wall behind him. That's what it looks like to me. This angle's kind of weird. It's possible this is just glint. And also, it's not a super, super high resolution video. But that's what I think we're seeing here. And then, plain as day, you could see this exact setup. Extended mag on the 320. Tourniquet out front. Go through a couple frames. And we have, once again, the hood reflection in the tourniquet. EMAG there. It's literally, it is this setup, without a doubt. Clear as day, see the hood. Tourniquet hanging way forward. Frame by frame. Skip through a bit. Everyone's favorite part. Gun goes bang. That's a $50,000 tile somehow. And then to finish it off at the end, as everyone's kind of, oh shit, this guy's ears are plugged. You kind of missed it. This guy's freaking out. This cop here actually doesn't even make a face the entire time the incident happens. Actually raises his eyebrows. So I don't know who this sergeant is. This dude's a bad motherfucker. Back to the video. Literally everything, I think, is pictured here. We have the tourniquet hanging off the front, the TQ holder and tourniquet. We have the light clearly shining on the top of the retention hood right here. Like I said, I'm going to go back and forth a couple times because I think it's easier to pick it up when it's in motion. And we have the ALS guard over the top of it. Okay, so if all that said, made it to the end of the video, gone through a bunch of different images, walked through the video timeline frame by frame in several different places, I think that's more than enough evidence to completely counter SIG's claim here. So at the end of the day, what do I think it is? Is SIG telling the truth, or are they full of shit and just coping? I think it's pretty hard to say that SIG isn't just straight up coping here. I mean, the gun is clearly properly seated and secured in the holster. But you people let me know in the comments or respond to this video. I'd be happy to hear any arguments on the other side. But until more evidence comes out about the event, I think this is really the only conclusion that you could draw from the video itself. So I do not know what kind of crack SIG is smoking, but that's all I got. All right, later, people.